Welcome to Rates and Barrels. It's Friday, August 29th. Derek Van Riper, Eno Saris here with you. On this episode, we dig into some baseball news you should know, including Kyle Schwarber popping 4 homers in a Phillies blowout on Thursday night. We got some injury news on Corey Seager, possible pitch tipping that's been happening with Ryan Helsley. Almost certainly pitch tipping, actually, based on what he has said.
Since he's admitted it.
He's admitted it. He says he's tipping pitches. I think that means he's tipping pitches.
Right, yeah.
We'll dig into that. We got the weekend waiver preview for the long holiday weekend, of course, Labor Day weekend. So hopefully people can get some rest and relaxation in over these next 3 days or so. And if you need extra content to listen to, I happen to join our friend Patrick Davitt over on Baseball HQ Radio. That podcast episode dropped on Friday as well. So, put me in the other chair, the guest chair, the co-host chair. It's a weird feeling. It feels like I'm a right-handed hitter. It feels like stepping into the left-handed box a little bit when I'm the guest. I like asking the questions more than I like answering them, I think.
This is exactly what it feels like when I'm hosting out there.
I can do it.
Where do I put my hands?
Yeah. What's going on with my face?
Yeah. My intonation is all wrong.
Patrick asked what made a kick change different, and I kind of froze for a second. I'm like, well, usually I'm not describing the specifics that make each type of pitch different. So it took me a minute to really think through it. Well, it's kind of like a splitter, but it has more horizontal movement. And it's just it's a hard, funky grip with the finger pulled back in. It's just Anyway, not my specialty, but I felt like it was a good conversation. So I hope people check that out. Some baseball news you should know as we get started, though, on this Friday. Kyle Schwarber hits 4 homers in a game. And Zach Meisel wrote about this earlier in the year. 4-homer games are more rare than no-hitters. They're more like perfect games in terms of their rarity, right? You just don't see them that often. And we've seen 3 this year. That's the amazing part.
It's really that rare? I feel like
they're really actually pretty unusual to have. And it makes sense when you think a little bit about it because, it's hard to hit 4 home runs in a game because you probably only get 4 to 5 trips to the plate. But
it's only happened 21 times.
Yeah, each time you hit one, I feel like the opposing team thinks even more about how they're going to pitch to you, and eventually they'll just stop. Yeah, they'll just stop pitching to you eventually. So I think that's part of why it is so difficult to do that.
Other notables, Nick Kurtz did it
earlier this year.
Rookie year, that's pretty good. Eugenio Suarez is on the list. Mike Schmidt did it in 1976.
Scooter Gennett did it once.
What? Scooter Gennett.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I guess that's a funny one because with Scooter Gennett, you're like, he won't do it again.
Right.
That he did it again? We're not walking him. We are not walking Scooter Gennett.
We don't need to walk Scooter Gennett. And he's probably standing there like, yeah, you don't need to walk me. And he hits one. He's like, ha, got you again.
Yeah. He's got to be the guy with the least amount of homers for his career that has done this because he only has 87 homers for his whole career, and 4 of them came in one game. His season high was 27.
That was the year they hit 4 in a game, right? It was Cincinnati, for sure. Yeah, highly unusual series of events. I did see some buzz about Schwarber being an MVP candidate. And I don't think I'm there as far as him actually winning the award. Sure, should he be on ballots? Should he be in consideration? That's all fine and well. He's having a great season. I saw our friends over at Baseball Savant had a story up about how this is the first year that Aaron Judge has not led the league in hard hit rate. Kyle Schwarber actually does.
Nice.
We talked about Schwarber a few weeks ago, though. He's having a career year at 32. He's hitting free agency at the end of the season.
Perfect timing.
And he is going to get paid again because he's aging really, really well, all things considered. We talked about him in the context of how he thinks about hitting and the swing decisions he makes, not being somewhat similar to David Ortiz. But the big difference is Kyle Schwarber strikes out a lot more than David Ortiz did in this stage
I
of
think
their
I'd be
respective
careful with how many years I give him. I think this will be the situation. It can't be the Dodgers, but it'll be one of the big market teams giving him a big annual number, but not really a long one, unless they want to stretch for luxury capture reasons. I just, with the 26% K rate, I'd be a little bit nervous. But third best WRC plus in baseball this year among qualified hitters. So that's the other part of your MVP case is that it's possible that we ding designated hitters too much in wins above replacement. And the only problem with making that argument is that the guy ahead of him on the list makes the same argument in Shohei Ohtani. So you can't really make the argument that he's been better than Shohei Ohtani when Shohei Ohtani has 30 points of batting average, 20 points of OBP, 20 points of slugging, and he's also throwing and is pretty good. So it's just a tough thing. I think Schwarber will end up second or third. It's a really good season and really good launch for his career. Also, we're not having Niv Shah on today, so gratuitous mention of Otanu here. Kyle Schwarber almost won me the global lead last night in the picking of the six picks, whatever it's called, because it's been called a lot of things over the years. But what's it called? It's called Pick Six
Picks.
6 picks. It used to be called Pick Six. So 6 picks. I had Willie Adames too. So I had 6 homers on my team, and a good pitcher. I forget who it was. It was I forget who it was. So I had 100 points, and I had like 105 and 110 won or whatever. So I was so close.
Yeah, you took
Nobody
third.
Cares. Yeah, nobody cares.
I won earlier this week. New session should be starting up coming out of the weekend. So if
you won the
have
global?
Not been playing. Yeah, I think it was the global leaderboard that I saw. Yeah,
nice.
Lower scores that day, but hey, a win's a win. Yeah, the slate is what it is. Like, you played the slate better than everybody else if you won. So good. Yeah. I finally got the rhythm down. It took until August for me to get into the cadence of set the lineup before, like the night before. Like after the lock of the current day, jump in, at least put your placeholders in, and then set your reminder, come back before the game
sometimes
starts.
You do a second one for catchers especially. You pick a catcher and you're like, oh crap, he's not in the lineup.
Yeah. Kyle Schwarber, though, a key to winning in that contest, pretty much any sort of daily contest that was happening with that 4-homer game in the blowout win over Atlanta. But you're right. If you change the DH penalty in WAR, it's going to help Shohei too. So I think that's the problem. At least you're making an apples to apples sort of comparison as far as Shohei not adding defensive value, even though he adds a lot of value with what he can do on the mound. But great season for Kyle Schwarber, and curious to see where he ends up going when he gets back into free agency here in a couple of months. Corey Seager had a successful appendectomy on Thursday. Could return this season. At least they're not ruling out the possibility. But
I think come back fairly quickly from these. I mean, I'm also
not Adam Dunn, the Adam Dunn timeline.
Not tomorrow.
No, like three to 4 weeks is possible, and there's still enough time for that to matter. It's going to come down to whether or not the Rangers have anything to play for. I think too. Like that.
Normies can get out of the hospital like the day after or something. Like it's
sure. Oh, everyone can leave the hospital the day after, but can you go hit 100-mile-an-hour fastballs a week later,
especially
2 weeks later?
Seager, who has had other surgeries down there, shall we say? He's had a couple of hernias and like adductor problems, so you wouldn't want to fool around with it too much. And then you set this against sort of, is it a flagging Rangers team? They're still in it. But they just lost Nathan Eovaldi to rotator cuff surgery, or I don't know if there's surgery yet, but to the rotator cuff strain.
The strain, yeah. Semion's hurt. He could miss the rest of the season.
As
Carter's out
Trevor
for the
May
year.
mentioned that the Liz Frank is the bad one, so we may not. I don't think we'll see Semien again this year, and we're not going to see Eovaldi again. And they're trying to hang on, but I think it says in the rundown, how many positions can Josh Smith play?
Yeah, how many can he play at once? Because every time someone gets hurt, I read the update, and it says Josh Smith will move over to play first base. Josh Smith will move over to play shortstop. And I'm like, well, the guy that was playing the spot before, they didn't come back. So somebody else also has to play. It can't just be Josh Smith playing 3 times, unless they've cloned
So
him.
Ezekiel Duran is going to play regularly.
Yeah, and they brought in Dylan Moore. That was the other part of the equation.
So Dylan Moore will get
finally getting out of
Seattle.
Seattle.
Duran is a righty too, right? So you can't platoon Dylan Moore and Ezekiel Duran. You're platooning Duran maybe with Cody Freeman, who I believe is the brother of Tyler Freeman. Maybe I'm just making this comp because they both make a lot of contact and don't hit it that hard. Maybe I should check mine.
I'm going to check this out because
definitely
I'm on the edit today, so I have to actually make sure that that's factually true. By the baseball reference page, it does not indicate
yes,
that
they are
related.
brothers.
Oh,
Tyler is the older brother. Cody is
line.
the younger brother. They both make contact. They both have a little bit of defensive issues. Tyler was supposed to be the better defender and is still playing center. Cody is headed maybe towards second base. And I think the projections undervalue Cody Freeman's ability to make contact. So I'd be a little excited if Cody Freeman got a lot of playing time, but he doesn't have that Colorado boost, and we didn't play Tyler Freeman a whole bunch before Tyler Freeman had the Colorado boost. So Duran, Freeman, Rowdy.
We got Alejandro Ozuna getting some time too. That's happening in the outfield. Yeah, they're banged up.
Yeah,
they are really banged up right now.
Alejandro is okay. So of the players, though, Alejandro Ozuna, Fangraphs is not going to give it. It does not give him much playing time. But I remember Donnie Ecker was telling me that he really thought that Ozuna was something good because you could see in his numbers that he's a fighter. Like he fights to make contact. He's had some good walk rates. He's had some good power rates. Like there's a peak version of him that's actually maybe like a league average regular, and he's only 22. So Ozuna might be, of all the players that we just mentioned, if you're in a keeper league, Ozuna, and this has to be kind of a deeper league because as you noticed from the names we mentioned, none of them are top prospects. I think Ozuna is actually the one where I might want him on my dynasty bench just in case.
It's a $1 flyer for Ottoneu, potentially. You're looking for some outfield help that could have a role next year. Maybe there. Maybe even
because Adolis is running out of time there. Is he?
Adolis Garcia still has one more year. Well,
but you can't play Langford everywhere, and Carter gets hurt a lot, and Jock Peterson is still under contract.
Yeah, and Garcia is actually going to be a final year of ARB, so they could non-tender him if they want to.
Yeah, Ozuna might be a longer timeline, but I
Jock's
bet you
got
next
a player
year
option. He's going to pick it up.
He's going to pick it up, yeah. I bet you Ozuna next year gets like 200 to 300 plate appearances, Like he's the plate, like when Carter's hurt or whatever, he's the guy who comes up.
All right, well, there you go. So a little bit of a mess playing time-wise for the Rangers as a result of all these injuries at once. As Seager goes, it's kind of another year where the trend keeps getting a little bit worse in terms of playing time. If he doesn't come back, this will be the third consecutive season in which he's dropped in his plate appearance total. He peaked up at 663 for the Rangers in year one of that deal he signed in 2022, down to 536 and 533 the last two seasons. That's probably where I would set the projection in a typical year. Low to mid 500s for plate appearances, because it just seems like a lot of the injuries he's had are in close proximity to each other. So there's a trouble region for Corey Seager, and to expect more than 550 plate appearances seems pretty foolish, but his skills as a hitter still look really good. 53.6% hard hit, third year in a row with a 15% barrel rate. He's chasing less than he has in 7 years. I mean, Corey Seager can still play.
A really good pick in leagues where you have IL slots and maybe shallower even, Because then you're like, hey, when Seager's in, I have like a top 5 type shortstop, But when he's out, I have a waiver wire to go to that's not so terrible.
The dreaded imbalanced player, though, that does not steal bases at a position where so many players steal bases. That has always been the problem, if you want to call it that, with Corey Seager. You just have to plan accordingly for that if you're in a roto league. Let's talk about Ryan Helsley. He has identified a pitch tipping problem, which certainly explains why his tenure with the Mets so far has been brutal. He's just been a shell of the guy we're accustomed to seeing in a closer role, working as part of the bridge to Edwin Diaz. You did some sleuthing and some photoshopping, and you think you honed in on what it is. And I'm going to be honest, I'm going to put it on the screen on YouTube. I think it's the Office Pam Beasley, it's the same picture. I don't see it, but tell me what you see here with Ryan Helsley.
When I was looking from behind, his arms are not in the same, they're not as parallel. So with the fastball, his arms are more parallel, and with the slider, his arms are more askew. When you look from behind, it looks pretty obvious from behind, I thought. And then we actually got some from behind home plate. And if you do see anything, basically what you see on the slider is you see more of his right hand, like more of his right hand and wrist. So if you're look at how much of that shadow you see, right? And if you think this is not much, like I do actually think, like when we listen back to the Jed Lowry episode about how he decided what pitches were.
Yeah. Hand position and just little, very, very small cues that
this would be something. I think if you see something, and I think I see more wrist on the slider picture, then I think that is enough to actually affect what's happening. I wouldn't say there's a lot of people. Oh, that's so small they can't see that. A hitter can see that. He's looking for the release point. That's really close to the release point. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think there's a little more shadow. I'd have to almost zoom in and count pixels to.
Yeah, I know. I wish it was more obvious. But the other thing that I can also put out there is that Kyle Rice, REIS on Twitter, was saying in a couple years ago that he came to rest longer on fastballs. This is, and Kyle writes about the Cards. So this is when he was at the Cards. Why I found that interesting was that Ryan Helsley said, I've had issues with this before. So I don't know if this was tipping writ large or this specific tip. And if it's this specific tip, it could be how long he comes to rest. Now, that's really hard to study without getting, watching the full film all the way through and counting all the time. Because the way we get clips, they're clipped at different points. So you don't even know how long he's been standing there. So, if you want to be an amateur internet sleuth or a semi-pro, go count how many seconds he's come set, because maybe there's something there too. But this is obviously something he's dealt with before. I would say that people have been asking me what do I think, and one thing he has done is he's thrown more fastballs as a Cardinal, as a Met, and been a little bit more predictable, and that actually could go hand in hand with tipping, where he's like, maybe they are on my slider in a way they haven't been in the past. So I'm going to just throw my heat, and maybe that doesn't work if they can see both, So, he also said my stuff is as good as ever. And that's a stuff plus argument. And you can look on his page and be like, his stuff plus is as good as ever. There's nothing that's broken mechanically in terms of what he's throwing. And I would also caution people that, it does when you are like a Mets fan and so much is on the line, and you're just like, oh, he sucks. Like, why did we do this? I get that feeling as a fan, but I remember having a lot of arguments about Jesus Luzardo. We were like, he's never going to get out of this. He sucks. He's never going to figure this out. And it was about tipping, and it was about being comfortable with the way he adjusted to tipping and coming out of it. And he's come out of it really well. So I think this can happen from time to time, but I think tipping is a good diagnosis, because maybe they have a problem figured out and they just have to fix it.
Yeah, Will Salmon wrote about it for The Athletic, and it's like, I think he has a solution based on the way the story's written, but what Helsley says, this is one of the quotes in the story, in the moment it's really hard. The game speeds up, especially with the pitch clock. You can't just step off anymore. A lot of times, if you're thinking about other things and executing the pitch, your focus is a little awry. And that ties into stuff Trevor May has told us about just how much pitch clock literally speeds you up. It takes away some of those tools you might have had.
He doesn't have great natural command too. So if he's thinking about these things, maybe he's not focusing in on the target like he should be or whatever. So
right. I still think we're looking at Helsley as a closer in 2026, getting a multi-year deal in free agency. Tigers closer, ? I could see a team like that going out and upgrading their bullpen.
We were saying that the Pirates could come to the table on closer just to spend money to shut people up.
Just to show the league we're serious. We want to win. Come take our money. hope for Pirates fans they're going to do that. I'm not expecting
What about
that.
signing Ryan Helsley and trading for Wilson Contreras?
Still not enough.
Yeah, it's not enough, but it's a start. They have 2 guys over 100 WRC plus. Come on down, Mr. Tommy Pham and Spencer Horwitz. Those are your above average Pirates hitters this year.
But there's your other reason why you probably wouldn't even trade for Wilson Contreras. You got Spencer Horwitz. He's one of your guys that you actually can trust right now, and you really just don't want him to play anywhere but first base, do you?
Who knows? I mean, you got DH, unless you're going to bring Kutch back again.
Yeah, never say never. Hey, like Andrew McCutchen can be a Pirate as long as he wants to be a Pirate. I think he's earned that at this point. One other story that I thought was pretty interesting that scrolled by on The Athletic. It was a story about Tim Hires, the hitting coach in Atlanta, but it also included a nugget about Ozzie Albies, whose prolonged struggles throughout the first half probably were caused by the wrist injury he suffered last year. At least that was what was insinuated, comments in the story anyway. So I think when you look at Albies and how he started to play lately, there is some reason to believe he's getting back to being the guy we expected him to be, because his level of decline for his age really did not make a lot of sense without some sort of context that explains it. And I think the injury from last year lingering into 2025 is about as good of an explanation as I have seen so far to help me understand why Albies struggled so much for most of the season.
Yeah, and I think that's been a big part of the story for Albies for a while. I mean, he's been a little bit unfortunate with the injury bug. If you look at his bat speed this year, it is one of the worst of his career. But if you look at March and April and early on, especially May, 68.4 mile per hour bat speed. Now he's up to 69.1. He's also been able to put more tilt on the ball, and he's getting the ball out in front a little bit more later in the season. And, his monthly splits, his slugging goes from, starting with a 3 to starting with a 4, from month to month. So, I think there could be something there about him getting healthier. And this is why I've pointed out that I think when the price drops all the way to the bottom, I'm back in on Albies. Like, if I'm buying him as the 12th best second baseman next year, I'm in, because this is the type of player that, he still has a lot of strengths. He makes contact. He's not a terrible chaser at the plate. He's going to mash against lefties most years because he's been good against lefties. It's going to, in the best years, he holds his own against righties, and he still steals bases. And then there's what about a year where he's healthy all year? I mean, we're 2 years removed from 280, 33 homers, 13 stolen bases, 109 RBI. And, the Braves lineup itself is actually somehow gotten old quickly. It was the second oldest when I was looking at the lineup. So I was like, this is the second oldest lineup in the big leagues or something. I think there's a little bit of a last hurrah approaching for the Braves. Is that possible?
You need the second core to follow.
I feel
the
that a
first
little bit
one.
more about the Phillies, actually. The Phillies a little bit old.
The Phillies are, and they're still playing really well. It's not to disparage the core.
But I'm just saying the Braves could come together next year. Acuna should be healthy from the beginning of the season. If Albies is feeling better, if Olsen has a better year, you know what I mean? There's different parts for that to like I said, the Braves are projected to be the 11th best team going forward this year.
Right.
So if that all comes together next year and they do some work on the pitching staff, they're going to be contenders, and Albies could have a great year.
And that's a lot of holdovers on the roster that are all there because they signed those long-term extensions. So they're going to be, I think, fine in 2026. Maybe you worry in 2028 or 2029 if they don't have a lot of other core pieces that are coming up to supplement Drake Baldwin.
Drake Baldwin, baby.
Yeah, but you need a little more with Baldwin,
right?
That's true. As the rest of these guys continue to age. But I think they got a few more years with the current core that they have in place. Let's get to our weekend waiver preview. We had some questions about Nolan McLean specifically. He's up to 79% rostered on CBS. 8 innings, scoreless innings against the Phillies will do that. People get excited about performances like that, and for good reason. The question I have for you is, should Nolan McLean be 100% rostered or nearly 100% rostered? Like, is he absolutely worth picking up in shallow leagues based on what we're seeing here in his first 3 big league starts?
I mean, there's some question about role because, are the Mets going to go to 6-man? Jonah Tong is coming up on Friday today to pitch. So there's some question about role. But there was also this question of like, who are his comps? And I think of this like the Nick Kurtz question. And some of Nick Kurtz's comps were Luis Robert. So you can look at pitch movements and pitch velocities and find comps, but then there are other things that pitchers do beyond just the movement of their pitches. So that's my caveat here before I tell you the names. The comps for Nolan McLean are fairly obvious, actually. They are Michael King and Will Warren. And the reason I say this is they all have the same arm angle. They all have the same arsenal, more or less. They all have a surprising four-seamer, a really good sinker, a pretty good changeup. They all have really good sweepers. This is a perfect arm angle for a sweeper. Where McLean separates himself a little bit from the crew is he both has, the Michael King Clark Schmidt cutter, and yet he also has the sort of big curveball. He has a bigger curveball than Warren and King, and he also has more of a true cutter. But if you look at these constellations of these pitches right now, I submit to you that these are very similar pitchers. Now, beyond that, you have Nolan McLean sitting 95, Will Warren sitting 93, Michael King being more sort of 92, 93. Michael King obviously has the best command of this group, and Nolan McLean has the worst command of this group. So, and then he pitches in a way better ballpark than Will Warren. So I'm going to say better than Will Warren, but not as good as like Michael King. That still could be 90, 100% owned, right?
It still could be. Yeah,
isn't that weird that these guys all kind of throw very similar pitches and they're not? You'd put Michael King when he's healthy in like the top 20. Will Warren is like a top 40, top 50 pitcher.
But that's track record mostly.
Yeah, that's track record. And it's Park command.
Park bumps the floor up. Command is the skill separator that is, always important. I think McLean, the way you've presented him makes me think that there is that Michael King type level, and it's not that far away. Like that could be. Maybe
but he throws harder and he has less command. He definitely has less command. I mean, he was in the first game. He walked a lot of the lefties. Like he walked most of the lefties.
And we're at the point 3 starts where we feel pretty good about the location plus, even though one of those was the debut, because I think we've talked about debuts being outings in which your location numbers usually come in a little bit lower than your baseline.
Yeah, I mean the number for pitching plus and location plus is usually around 300 pitches, and for McLean we have 281. So it's not bad, and then a 98 location plus is better than I expected. But that doesn't mean that every pitch has met the threshold and that every pitch is commanded equally. I think the problem that he has against lefties, he has an 85 location plus on his four-seamer. Right. So I think when he gets against lefties, what I've seen, and this is subjective too, just from watching his starts, I've seen like a tentative approach against lefties. And it really reminds me of Will Warren was doing the same thing where he was just walking lefties. He hasn't dialed in his approach versus lefties all the way. But I think that doesn't matter in the short term. I would say shallow leagues, everybody should own him.
So you had Will Warren 65th on your last update for your starting pitcher rankings for the rest of the season. King, if he were healthy, would have been around 30. The guys
so
in
I
between,
think McLean should be like a 40, 45.
Yeah, so if the would you rather is Nolan McLean versus Quinn Priester.
Yes.
That's like, you're kind of like, I could argue either side.
He's going to strike more guys out.
McLean versus Jesus Luzardo.
Ooh. Luzardo's got the tough park. He's had some ups and downs. I'd probably take Luzardo.
All right. So that would put him 42.5 on your list if we're placing him right now. So I'm glad we glad we could solve that on the fly. But okay, should be in the 95+% range for roster rates in the near future.
And top 50 guys are generally guys I start all the time.
Yeah, for the most part. And you're talking more like 15-team leagues for the all the time. 12, right, maybe you're going to cut that a little thinner. But yeah, like that's a good pitcher already, right out of the box, 3 starts in to his big league career. It's not just McLean, though. We're going to see Jonah Tong debuting on Friday. Tong's got a funky delivery. Like there's some serious drop in that delivery. Big strikeout rates.
Broken our model.
Yeah. Tons of strikeouts in the minor leagues. What on earth are we expecting from Jonah Tong? And there's still some questions about how they make all the pieces fit and whether this is a one-off right now. Maybe it depends on how he performs. I just saw Frankie Montas actually is going to have surgery on his elbow. He's got a UCL tear. I don't know if it's internal brace or Tommy John. Either way, he's done for the season. So the needs continue to increase. But what's the expectation for Tong relative to McLean? And do you think he actually sticks for the final month of the season in this Mets rotation?
So McLean had the number 1 stuff plus among pitchers who hadn't played in the major leagues yet, because the number 1 stuff plus in AAA is Hunter Green. Duh.
Mm-hmm. Hunter Green spent a little time there rehabbing. That'll do it.
Yeah. Tyler Glass now really near the top. Then Nolan McLean graduated and Jonah Tong came up and he had the number 1 stuff plus. So the Mets up to something good here. I will say that there's a little bit of riskiness to these numbers because Jonah Tong's delivery is so weird, it broke our arm angle model a little bit. So our arm angle model, we don't get arm angle for the minor leagues, so we have to create a model. That's what I was presenting at Sabre Seminar. We have to create a model that sort of guesses the arm angle. And it looks at Jonah Tong's extreme extension. Think Tim Lincecum. He's very Tim Lincecum. He gets really far out there, and he's kind of shorter, and he releases it low. And it says your sidearm.
Like, no, he's not. He's not sidearm.
No. And so it spits out a 30-degree arm angle, and his arm angle is really like 65. So that's some risk in these numbers. But however, I actually think, and this might be sort of a vibes-based argument, but I actually think that this, even though it might be wrong in some ways because the arm angle is wrong, I actually think that this describes the Jonah Tong experience. And so I think he'll end up having a high stuff plus in the major leagues as well, even once we know his arm angle, because it's really good velocity, really good extension. He jumps at you. It's a release point you don't see very much of. 65. There's no real 65s in the major league in terms of arm angle. So he is going to be 60. So weird.
It's so weird.
It's really weird.
It's low and it's a high arm angle. It's a low release, high arm angle. Like I can't even imagine like trying to pitch this way. Like, this is just,
it's crazy. And so when you the other piece of risk you see, and someone brought this up, that it's a good point, was that his changeup is his best pitch, and you can just see that by number of pitches thrown, right? Oh, changeup, that's his best secondary. A righty that features a changeup as his best pitch. I don't know, man. It's so Tim Lincecum. It's like I can't believe it. You know what I mean? Like Tim Lincecum splitter. I hesitate to just be like, hey, we got a new Tim Lincecum, but. Hey, babe, have a new Tim Lincecum just dropped. Yeah. So I'm really excited to see his debut tonight. And I'm really excited to see what his actual arm angle, we'll know that on Sunday, I believe. So what his stuff plus is with his actual arm angle, I really looking forward to that Sunday update on Fangraphs. But I just think this is amazing and these are very different pitchers, like Jonah Tong and Nolan McLean and Brandon Sproat. These are very different pitchers. So, kudos to them to finding different plans for different guys, getting them up there. There are some questions also about Tim Lincecum long-term longevity. Was talking to Jake Seeley a little bit about that. And, those are one of those things that you think about when you're handing out the free agent deal or when he's 28, 29, 30 in your dynasty league. It's not what you think about right now, I don't think.
Wouldn't worry about that.
He does yank his back, though. It looks really uncomfortable. Like, you look at it, the way he gets over the top is the only way to do it, really, is just to yank your back to the side.
Let's just remember a few things about Tim Lincecum for a moment. What was Tim Lincecum's highest K percentage at a season at the big league level?
Oh, God, that's so funny because I would guess now like 33% or 35% because, that's what like a lights out crazy person does now. That's like a crochet. I would be
right. That's what it felt like at the time.
So, but now I'm
28.8%.
28.8. All right.
Yeah.
It's still really good. I mean, at the time, it's probably the same as like a 32 now.
Yeah, and he ripped through the minors really fast for that time. Like he was in the minors in 06
had like
and 07.
2 starts in AAA,
right.
Yeah.
Tim Lincecum's minor league strikeout rates were above 40% at every single stop.
And didn't Tong just set the minor league strikeout rate, the record?
I believe he's got 179 Ks and 113 and 2/3 innings so far this year. And this might be the only other thing to consider with Jonah Tong in terms of usage. If they see him as someone they need in the postseason, they have to be a little more careful with him to save some innings for later because he's sitting already at the same number of innings that he threw last year. He's 2/3 of an inning above.
I think they'll do a 6-man. And so I've been annoyed because I had Sean Manaea in for what I thought was a 2-start week this week. And then I was like, well, at least he'll have a 2-start week next week. And Sean Manaea is not ever going to have a 2-start week again. I think they're going to do a 6-man rotation from here on out.
The other interesting thing about Jonah Tong, it's a tiny sample at AAA, but the walk rate went down. The brief time he was at AAA, lowest walk rate we've seen from him so far, mostly double-digit walk rates at every stop. So I do think there's that similarity with Lincecum too.
Yeah. But I mean, it's just so many similarities. It's crazy, like it's really going to be fun. The other debut that we've got tonight is Payton Tolle. I didn't look up how to say his name.
No, that's right. It's Payton Tolle. It was on the sheet, actually. But he's going up against Paul Skeens and the Pirates.
Oh, you got that dig in. Thank you.
It was on the sheet.
So Payton
my
Tolle
jokes are there, too. If you want to steal my jokes, they're all on the rundown.
Oh, no, I was about to, I think.
Or just look at delete them.
Were you going to make a joke about his mustache?
No, I did think he looks a little bit like Andrew Chafin.
Oh, yeah.
But like a more managed haircut than Chafin.
He also has like a minus physique.
Sure. Yeah, well, that's fine. We're not body shaming. I think I saw there was a conversation on Blue Sky I saw this morning. I mean, it was last night. Mark Normandin was just commenting on how it's amazing that you can have someone who's built like Paul Skeens and even someone like Tarek Skubal, who are the two best at what they do in the sport. And they don't even have the same body type. And then you get variations upon that. And you have guys that are still extremely talented and able to pitch on a similar sort of level.
Little guys, whippy guys, big old sort of chunky guys. Yeah.
It just doesn't matter. It just does not seem to matter.
There is a high correlation between how much force you put into the ground with your front leg and how much velocity you make. So, generally the bigger guys should throw harder because they're putting more force in the ground. But there are people who are managed like a Tong to put more force in the ground through other means. You know what I mean? Like through other than being big.
Maxing out effort in the delivery.
But if you're going to build a perfect pitcher, it'd look more like Paul Skeens,
Sure.
Or like a Giannis. Like you can imagine if you could create a Giannis that actually knew how to play baseball, because I've seen him play baseball and he does not know how to play baseball.
No,
which is fine.
If he threw out a first pitch at a Brewers game, it was the first time he's probably ever held a baseball in his life.
Yeah, that's what I think. Yeah, that's what it looked like. So anyway, I'm not shaming Giannis. I love Giannis. Anyway, Payton Tolle, who we're actually talking about, I think has a pretty good fastball. We're looking right now at his stuff and location numbers from the minor leagues. He's a lefty, which is good. He is a lefty with, it looks like, pretty good command on a slider, four-seam, and cutter. Those things are all good. As a lefty with a poor change and a curve he can't command, I think there's a slight bit of risk. I don't know that I have a comp for you that's like four-seam, slider, cutter, lefty. Usually, you have like the Bubich and Cameras. They have a changeup they like. Who's a four-seam, slider, cutter, lefty? Well, I'll leave that to the hive on the Discord to find.
Interesting pitcher, though, for sure. And maybe a little underrated, and we've seen lefties come up and wreak havoc this year.
Yeah.
Tolle's got good velocity too, so you're not playing the usual, oh, does he have a weird fastball? It's like, well, it's got just a good fastball. I think that could go a long way for Tolle as well. As far as the duration of the opportunity here, is there a full September possibly left for him, innings wise and needs wise for the Red Sox?
Right now, the probables over at Fangraphs say Tolle, May, Giolito, Bayo, Crochet. So not pictured are Walker Buehler.
And Fitz just recently got hurt, so that's one of their options that went down.
And the other thing is, like, could he pitch his way ahead of anybody on that list into like the third spot in the playoffs? No, I don't think so. I think he'll be their fifth starter the rest of the way, actually. And I think he will make the playoff roster, is my prediction. And he'll make the playoff roster as like kind of a lefty glue guy.
Yeah, I would venture to guess they've got something like 30 more innings penciled in for him, because he's about 10 above what he threw last year, 81 1/3 his final season at TCU, and he's at 91 2/3 right now. 30 innings though, 5 per, that's 6 starts. That gets you through the last month of the season. So they can absolutely do it before backing off at the end of the season, or maybe throwing him in the bullpen at the end of the year too. They have that possibility.
I mean, if they're in the playoffs, what they would love, I think, is like that they're solidly in the playoffs and they can do like a bullpen game or call up somebody else, or Buehler gets a start or whatever it is late, so they can recoup like another 10 innings out of Tolle for the playoffs. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. So how do these guys that are popping up and debuting this weekend stack up to some of the names we've been looking at for the last couple of weeks? Parker Messick pitched well again in his second big league start. Luis Morales, who's looking good. There was a question in the Discord about him maybe being underrated by the model because the changeup is probably his best secondary. And
I mean, the model likes Luis Morales. I don't, could he be even better than the model says because it doesn't like his changeup? Maybe, but like throws 97. The big thing that the model's not picking up on yet is that he's gotten poor command grades.
Mm.
Like he had a 30/45 from Fangraphs on command grades, and the walk rates are 8, 9, 10, 11. It's not really popping in the walk rates yet. So right now, the 101 location plus, that might be too high, and the 106 stuff plus might be too low. But in any case, this is a high stuff guy. The thing that bothers me about all athletics pitchers is Sacramento. And you've got a start next week of Luis Morales at St. Louis and at Anaheim. That is the primo 2 start for next week. I think it's number 1, because otherwise you have like Luis Garcia for Houston, but he's coming back off an injury. Charlie Morton for Detroit. I guess that's not too bad, but it's Mets and White Sox at home. That's pretty good. That's up there with him. Bailey Ober against the White Sox and Royals. There's some good 2-start guys that might be on your wire, but I would say, that Luis Morales is probably the best of them all. But then after that, the schedule is a lot of at home, and I don't like him. So to me, he's more in that sort of 60 to 70 because of some schedule concerns. I just don't want to pitch anybody in Sacramento.
Yeah, that's fair. So more of a short-term play if you're looking at Luis Morales kind of shopping relative to the other young pitchers that are out there. Messick, do you like Messick more than Morales beyond this week if you had to pick one and stick with him?
Well, I like Messick on True Talent better than Ian Seymour and better than, I don't know if I like next year going into drafts, or if they weren't playing in Sacramento, like I might like Luis Morales better. But given where they pitch and where they'll be, I like Messick a little better than Morales. I like him better than Seymour. Short term, I think there's a little bit of a problem though. What is the situation there? He's on the list, but somebody else had just taken his job. Who's supposed to be coming up that then had a setback or something? Was it Cantillo or what was?
John Means is coming back.
Means was supposed to come back, and Messick was supposed to lose his job to Means, and then Means had a setback or something.
Yeah, you could probably go to a 6-man there. Alan Williams, Bobby Messick, Slade Ciccone, and like Slade has been a little down. Like I think you can You can find ways to keep Messick going if you feel like he's still got innings left.
Messick might have a 2-star next week, but it's at Boston, at Tampa, and at Tampa is really problematic too. So that, even though I like him talent-wise, and I agree with your assessment, we were talking about him, I don't know if it's on or off, but just good command, interesting looking profile, little bit of funk, and a lot of command, so I like Parker Messick, and his stuff is just a little bit better than Ian Seymour's to me. Ian Seymour has a bit of a dead zone fastball, and he throws it high in the zone. I think he's going to get in some homer trouble with that. Messick pitches high and low and pitches in a better ballpark, but I just don't like at Boston, at Tampa. So, it's Messick for me is a bit of a long-term play. Short-term, I have a little bit of a problem with that.
I think with Messick, though, too, there's not really any sort of innings cap that he's going to hit anytime soon either. So he should be able to just go until they decide they don't want him to start, which is probably just the end of the season, which is great news on that front. Yeah, you mentioned Ian Seymour. By the way,
I asked Carson Seymour about the Ian Seymour, Bob Seymour, Carson Seymour situation. If you're not aware of the situation, it had been over 100 years since there had been a single Seymour in the big leagues. And then there was a game between the Giants and the Rays where 3 Seymours got into the game, I think.
So the last Seymour that played in the big leagues was what, Cy Seymour?
Something like 1890s or something.
Yeah, Cy Seymour, 1913, I think was the last one.
That's it. That's the last one. So I asked him about that, and he was like, yeah, it's wild, isn't it? And I was like, no relations to any of you. And then he's like, nope, but I do know Bob. And so he and Bob played in some sort of summer league together. And so they had enough of the Seymour butts and Seymour jokes, I think. Oh, they're both big boys, too.
A lot of Seymour butts jokes, yeah.
Yeah, they're big dudes. Anyway, you were asking about Seymour as a pitcher that people should pick up or not.
Ian Seymour has been getting really good results. Dead zone fastball or not, it's kind of impressive. He's been sort of an extra guy for the Rays this year, so that he's getting a late season opportunity is kind of interesting because it might be an audition for a back end rotation spot in 2026 if it goes really well.
Pristine minor league numbers. Look at those ERAs. Jeez.
You know what it reminds me of on paper? It just reminds me of like a Nestor Cortez, a guy that just pitched really well everywhere, got a little old for the level and didn't have a lot of prospect shine, but then came up and was just good and just kind of kept on getting it done.
15th in the org by Fangraphs, 45 future value. What did Keith have him?
Look at this for a second. 55 grade on the fastball from Fangraphs, 50 slider, future 55, 45 on the curve, 60 present and future on the changeup, 50 on the cutter, 50 command.
That doesn't add up to a 45 future. You know what I mean? Like
the scale doesn't work that way. It blows my mind every time this happens.
All good, then he's good.
But I think the age and then the role expectation is sort of built in. Like the questions about his viability as a starter pull him back down to a 45, I guess.
Keith says he's 89-92 with plus control and command, a 55 changeup, an average or so cutter, some funk in the delivery, and good feel to pitch. That lets him get more out of that unimpressive arsenal. He gets compared quite a bit to Ryan Yarbrough.
I mean, look, Yarbrough is a good one too. Like Yarbrough is a little bit more like a Nestor Cortez, maybe with a little less ceiling, but
Seymour
better career than expected.
At least, I mean, the average lefty right now is 93, so that's still below average velo. Maybe I've undervalued Seymour. His situation in terms of matchups is that he's got Washington on Sunday, and if he pitches well there, he'll do well in Fab, perhaps, because he will be home against Cleveland on Friday. And as much as I don't like Tampa, I don't mind Cleveland as an opponent. So, I think Seymour slots in as someone who actually is sort of interesting long-term, sort of interesting short-term, he's kind of the middle grouping here.
Yeah. Some decent pitching out there this week, which is not a thing we say every single week. It's especially this time of year, it's kind of a grab bag. Can you get lucky and find something? This week you actually have some choices to make. As far as Steinbrenner Field goes, the 1 year park factor on that, it's a 103 for the overall number.
But that doesn't that doesn't do it because it's like some nights it's 120.
Well,
and some nights it's like a 75. I mean, it just depends on which way the wind is going.
Yeah, but I don't know. I think fears of the ballpark are a little overblown. Like, yeah, we talked about the Adley Rutschman plus 26 feet home run that happened there.
You want to be pitching on a night where there's plus 26 to right field.
That's not most nights that it can happen, but that's not the typical weather pattern.
It is true. And the story that we've been relying on from Michael Rosen early on did say that he thought it might skew a little bit more pitcher friendly late in the year because of wind patterns, general wind patterns. So, yeah.
So I think if you like a pitcher in that ballpark, unless you day of have good information indicating that it's doing the Wrigley wind blowing out sort of thing, you can probably proceed with playing that pitcher. That's where I'm at, just based on the actual data so far for all days combined. Yes, there are bad days in that ballpark, no doubt about that. Some bullpen help out there this weekend. So we've talked about these guys mostly throughout the week, but with Trevor McGill on the IL, Abner Uribe slides into the closer role. Skills look almost identical to McGill's this year in terms of strikeout and walk
rate. If it was
rate.
like a long-term injury for McGill, I would be like, and you need saves, put some big money on it. The thing that makes it interesting is that we were talking about this offline. It's just, or in the Discord, is McGill thinks it's like a week or two. Like it might be the minimum.
And he's had similar issues before, so maybe he's 100% right. But I don't know. Like I'm glad he's optimistic compared to being pessimistic or saying nothing.
Yeah,
but you just don't know.
4 weeks of saves, though. I would go Ryan Walker. I think that's, they've got a guy, Piguero, who's come up and he's thrown 100 and making the audition, but he doesn't have the same strikeout rate, and he was a starter, and they're using him in 2-inning starts. So I think it's pretty clearly Ryan Walker for the rest of the way for San Francisco.
Yeah, the fact that he held the job for a while last year, too, makes it easier to tell yourself that story. They're both under 50% rostered in CBS right now, Uribe and Walker, that is. If you have the choice, I think Uribe is the short-term play that's better. If you need saves all the way to the rest of the season, Walker probably has a slight edge. I did see Andrew Saalfrank is getting saves for the Diamondbacks, so I had to check my priors and make sure I didn't miss something in his arsenal. This is not a closer's arsenal, despite the fact that he's got a few saves recently. I'm not buying it.
It's a little bit the Baltimore situation, the Arizona situation, the Sacramento situation. They are, and maybe even the Minnesota situation. They're doing auditions, but I don't know that even the winner of these auditions is going to be a closer next year. You know what I mean? Like Hogan Harris has the last save for the A's, and he's like a 93 funky lefty with bad command, came on its BB. The Minnesota, it's Justin Topa got the last one. Could he be next year? I don't know. I think it could be. What's his face? Taj Bradley next year. You know, like I don't know. I think the winner of these is someone else. Like I've been staring at the Baltimore one, trying to figure it out myself, and I don't really have a winner there either. So, they could be avoids. I mean, but I know that some people are just desperate for saves, you know.
I'll just say be very careful if Saalfrank is last on your bid tree because he's getting saves. It's just unconventional closer stuff. Maybe there's a role for him in leverage because of funk, but it's not ninth inning long term, even if it's ninth inning in the short term.
I think I think I would prefer like a Sean Armstrong, maybe. You know, like there's certain. You know what I'd rather do? I'd rather also take maybe like a Fauché or Henriquez, somebody who's in a committee, but is just a better pitcher. Like I return often to, is he a good pitcher? You know, and if I'm not convinced he's a good pitcher, then I don't necessarily want to roster him just because he might get saves. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Fauché's up to a career high 13 saves, picked up at least another one this week. So quietly getting that share in Miami, and they're not a bad team. They at least generate some chances for them too. On the hitting side, before we go, there's a few bats that are playing a lot more. I didn't see any clear and obvious must-get players. I know Justinson Garcia has been up
the
for
password.
The Red Sox. Yeah, the password.
His brother's nickname is the username.
Does he have a very common name?
Oh, I don't know. What is Josh Nixon's brother's name? I'll look it up.
Yeah. So Just Nixon Garcia's up, but all 3 starts against lefties. Like it's a part-time play. It's not helping
his
you.
brother's name is Johan Front.
Oh, that's not as much
slightly more normal.
They're just using that because they're siblings. If his name was just like Juan or something, like, oh, okay, username. Yeah, sure. Common name. Juan, got it. Here's the group of guys I flagged 3 hitters, which is not a lot for a waiver preview.
Hitting waiver is bad right now. I was looking through it.
It's bad. So I got Jeremiah Jackson for the Orioles. Talked about him a couple of weeks ago.
Just looking at him.
Jared Triolo, who's getting eligibility all over. I think he's eligible at 4 spots all over the infield now. And Luis Matos. And the only reason I flagged the 3 guys is that they're both playing a ton. Jackson has started 8 straight games. He's hitting second for the Orioles right now. Triolo has moved to the top of the order at times. Thursday just marked his first day off since August 4th. I think that's mostly a deep league speed play. And the guy that I think I liked the most was the third one, Luis Matos. 7 consecutive starts, former prospect, still just 23. He's got 7 homers and 4 steals in 47 games with the Giants this year. The BABIP's kind of low right now in a fluky, like no one's BABIP stays that low sort of level. So if you told me he's a 250 hitter with a 310, 315 OBP, maybe 320, and has a little bit of power and speed, like that might actually be one of the better hitters available on the wire since he's also playing a lot, getting an audition for the Giants right now.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the last 3 years combined, Luis Matos, 556 plate appearances, 14 homers, 7 stolen bases. That speaks to what you're talking about. That would be interesting. However, it has come with a 226 batting average and a 276 OBP. And I just subjectively seen a bunch of Matos, and I have a weird comparison. It's a little bit like the kind of catnip that I get sometimes where in a pitcher where I'm like, oh, all the pitches are good. He's going to be good. And he's missing a je ne sais quoi. Like, he looks like a hitter. Here's an example. They brought him up. They played him in center field. They thought he was a center fielder. He is not a center fielder. Mm-hmm. He looks like a center fielder. He's got speed. He's kind of smaller. You're like, oh, that's a center fielder dude. He's not a center fielder. Then you think, oh, he's fast. He's not actually that fast. So and you see the K percentage, you're like, oh, so he's a hitter. He's a hitterish guy. Like he's a guy who puts the ball in play and stuff, but he doesn't put the ball in play with authority. So then you have a really tough home park. So I've fallen for Luis Matos many a time, and I think this time I'm going to say not this time. Jared Triolo, over the last 3 years, 909 plate appearances, 17 homers, 23 stolen bases. I like all that. 237 average, 323 OBP. I think he's my guy of this group. There's something I like about Jared Triolo. I haven't quite figured it out. I think he should have a lower strikeout. It's almost the opposite of Matos, where I'm like, I think he should have a lower strikeout rate than he does. And I think I don't know. There's something about Triolo, like every time I watch him, he gets a hit. Maybe that's it too. Like I've been watching Matos here in San Francisco, and I'm being poisoned by, actual what I see when I go to games, So this is a bad group though. Jeremiah Jackson has like a 3% walk rate and a 25% strikeout rate in his projections.
Right. Jeremiah Jackson, though, we talked about him either a week or two ago, at least ticks all the roto boxes. He's shown an ability to hit for average in the upper levels of the minor leagues. He has tapped into power. He's stolen bases. He's 0 for 2, I think, this year at the big league level. And he still only has 1 homer at the big league level. But he hits the ball hard. 51.6% hard hit rate at the big league level in the small sample. 46.5 at AAA. You could talk yourself into any one of these 3 as the best. And that's the concerning part is like in a lot of leagues, these are the best options for bats, at least as things stand on Friday. Maybe something will change over the next 48 hours or so.
There's a good piece about Jeremiah Jackson up on the site, and he does seem like someone to root for. He's 25 and he's been playing in the minors since 2018. So it's been a long and winding route to here, and He does seem like someone to root for, and I do like the hard hit stuff. I will admit, I do, but the plate skills leave me wanting. I mean, even now, 2% walk rate, 21% strikeout rate. I think that batting average is coming down. So Triolo's my guy, and I did look at his page and realize that he finally is striking out like I always thought he would, which is to say 19% of the time.
Yeah.
He came up with a 30%. I was like, I don't understand.
I think you don't like Luis Matos because he chases. He's got like a 40% O swing. He's got a good enough bat to ball where he can swing at those pitches.
Is there a better way to poison your appraisal of someone than to watch them chase?
Oh, it's one. I think it's one of the first things that would make me sour on a hitter, even though
Ezekiel Tovar, dude. Do you remember we were at the winter?
You were just like, no Tovar.
Out. No, that guy chases. This sucks.
It's hard to hit, dude. Some guys are going to chase. Some guys can hit stuff around the edges of the zone. They don't want to strike out looking, right?
The chase episode if you want to hear me eat some crow.
Love that episode also featured Pete Crow Armstrong. Very appropriate. Who's also been pretty cold since we had that conversation.
Yeah, he really has.
That's the nature of that kind of player. They run really hot and they run really cold. We just happen to be in a cold cycle right now for PCA. On this long weekend, though, I wanted to flag a few series. We're at that point in the year where it's like, what are you watching this weekend? And for some people, it's college football. Fortunately, my alma mater played on Thursday night and did not waste precious viewing hours when there was a lot of baseball on. There was not a lot of baseball on Thursday night.
My alma mater is projected to go winless.
Yeah, you guys lost the opener to Hawaii, right?
Yeah.
The week 0.
To go winless.
So
it's not good when you lose the opener because the opener is supposed to be the patsy, right?
Yeah, starting quarterback for the Badgers, transfer out of Maryland, got hurt in the first half. Never good to have that in the opener. No. They did hold on for a win, got a shutout against Miami of Ohio. But when you root for a team that struggles at home against a MAC team in its opener, that is an ominous cloud when you have one of the toughest schedules in the country this year. Wisconsin's got a really good Bama non-conference.
Ooh.
Big Ten being all over the country, whatever. You didn't come to this show to listen to college football.
Let's hear about baseball. What are the big series this weekend?
This is why I'm glad the Badgers already played. Brewers at Blue Jays, I think, is probably the best series of the entire weekend, right? Get the two teams with the best winning percentage in the league going head to head. It's Freddie versus
non-zero chance it's a World Series preview.
I mean, hey, I'll sign up for that.
It seems like we're just headed towards that. The vibes train is headed towards Blue Jays Brewers.
The vibes
train
not
going to work out that way, but
the vibes train can go a lot of directions in a month, though. So
that's true too. Yeah.
We'll enjoy this one when we can. Freddie versus Bieber for Bieber's second start on Friday night. Should be Priester versus Gossman on Saturday. Woodruff versus Scherzer on Sunday. So nice pitching matchups throughout that one as well. I flagged Mariners at Guardians as an important series because the Guardians really have a little window right now to draw closer to the pack, right? The Mariners are the team they're chasing for that final wild card spot right now. They're 5 games back. They get Seattle at home, could sweep them this weekend, make things really interesting. Talked about the Rangers, all the injuries they've had. The Royals, another team kind of in between those two right now, also in pursuit. So you got Kirby versus Logan Allen on Friday, and that favors the Mariners. Gilbert versus Gavin Williams on Saturday. Yeah, that favors the Mariners. Bryce Miller versus Tanner Bybee on Sunday.
That could be a toss-up.
A little more of a toss-up. Probably still, if it's healthy Bryce Miller, probably still Mariners.
It has looked pretty good. The fastball command looks like it's back.
But a pretty big opportunity for the Guardians, right? If they want to be a pesky team in September, this would be a big series for them to at least come out, take 2 out of 3 out of this one would go a long way.
And the flip side is that it's a pretty good opportunity for the Mariners. The Mariners are still chasing the Astros and would still prefer to win the division. And the Astros do seem gettable this year, and they are close. So, this is a series that Mariners are circling as, we need to take 2 out of 3 here at least.
Yeah. A lot of concentration on the Midwest, too. The other series I flagged, Cards at Reds, only because the Reds are 4 back of the Mets for the final wild card in the NL. So this is one you sort of have to have if you're Cincinnati, since you're hosting the Cardinals this weekend. It's Liberatore versus Littell on Friday. Michael McGreevy versus Andrew Abbott on Saturday. Michael McGreevy's kind of interesting. And then Sunday's Andre Palante versus Brady Singer. So
I picked up, by the way, this is something that came up on the craft, but if you're looking for good schedules that open up after bad beginnings, McGreevy's at Cincinnati After that turns into, I've got this right here in front of me, versus San Francisco, at Seattle, versus Cincinnati, at San Francisco. That is primo end of season schedule for McGreevy. He's got a lot of pitches, good command. I do think this weekend, it's a little bit like Cade Cavalli, just got blown up. But that was at New York. What does he do after this? Versus Miami, at Miami, versus Pittsburgh, at New York Mets. Like, that's a pretty good schedule for Cavalli. If he just got rage dropped in your league, that's something to think about. But so with this weekend, I think there will be lots of runs in Cincinnati.
Chris Sale comes back Saturday in Philly too, by the way. So circle that as something you might want to watch around your college football viewing and baseball viewing this weekend. Some, in case you missed it, flyby news items. I was wrong. The Rays did not salvage Eloy Jimenez. He's not even in the organization anymore. He just signed a minor league deal with the Blue Jays.
He's not hitting the ball hard anymore. But
I think
it's over. Going to give him a chance. Roki Sasaki, who I was out on in the spring, and then I had to do rankings, and the stupid projections made me put him too high. It's not my fault. It's the projections' fault. Is throwing hard again, but is not getting any whiffs. He's sitting 96 or so. It looks okay to the naked eye, but I think he threw like 25 fastballs and got 2 whiffs or 1 whiff in the last game that he played. So I continue to be pessimistic about his short-term future. We'll see about the long-term.
He topped out at 98.8, though, in a rehab outing on Tuesday through 31 splitters. Got 7 whiffs on those, 75 pitches overall. Keeping an eye on Miguel Vargas. Got into a collision with Aaron Judge and lost. He's got a wrist injury. We'll see if it's worse than a contusion once they run some further tests there.
The note that I read from RotoWire, I believe, says they believe a injured list stint is coming.
Yeah, so keep an eye on that before lock. Francisco Alvarez now has a fractured pinky on his left hand to go with the UCL sprain on his right thumb.
How did he get that? Is he playing?
I think he was starting to ramp up baseball activities. Yeah. He's going to try and resume baseball activities again in a few days. So, yeah.
He's going to be my number 2 catcher in some leagues next year. Or maybe even number 3 if I can manage it.
If you're in the same league as me, you're going to have a hard time making it happen. I like him a lot for next year. Yeah, it's just been a series of setbacks. And it seemed like before this UCL injury especially, he was locked in. The adjustments he tried to make during the winter, those were starting to kick in midsummer. It's just been interrupted by injuries a couple of times. Mentioned Montas earlier having the torn UCL. That is a bummer. And then we did get one more update. Luis L. Ortiz and Emmanuel Clase, their leave has been extended to the end of the 2025 season. Not a surprise. It was previously through the end of August, which we've almost reached. So there you go.
I don't think the story ends well for our 2 protagonists.
I don't think so. The league continues its probe into their potential involvement in gambling. So we'll wait for the resolution for that. So the best joke I saw on that online was it'll be the Friday after Thanksgiving when we get the lifetime ban announcements for both of them. It's like, yeah, that's about the pace at which these things tend to go. So, all right, we did it. We made it through the final Friday of August. 1 month to go in the show. If you're enjoying this show, please leave us a nice rating and review. If you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel yet, you should do that. You can see our lovely faces and graphics that we put together. You can also join our Discord with the link in the show description. Enjoy the long weekend, everybody. Hopefully you can find some time to rest and relax and enjoy time with friends, family, watching baseball, watching football, doing whatever it is that is restful to you, that is not work. That's going to do it for this episode of Rates and Barrels. We're back with you on Tuesday.
Thanks for listening.